On session. It's Wednesday, January 24th, 6:35 PM. First item on the agenda is a discussion with the Recreation Director, Tim Davis. He's here with us tonight as our first guest speaker. So welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
Welcome. We always look forward to seeing you. I'll open it up to the committee if there's any comments initially, and then we can or ideas on how we want Tim to help us, and then we'll turn it over to Tim. Did you want to go first, Jenny?
Sure. So what we have been doing is sort of researching what other towns have done. And we came up with sort of a comprehensive list of what year they were celebrating. And if it's been in the past, what they did. And if it's in the future, what they're planning. And so we have a sort of a broad list of ideas. And it would be just, we're at the point right now where I think we're just brainstorming. I did notice the letter from Jim that was a draft, sort of to the town, talking about some of the potential things that we could do. There, if you look, there's a spreadsheet that we have that was part of the packet. I don't know if you saw that tonight, that identifies the town and what the different celebrations are. And there's sort of a theme throughout most of the towns that do very similar events to honor the year. And most towns, it is a year-long celebration. Everything from, now the town of Holliston is doing theirs in 2024. And there's a great list of events, from breakfasts to parades, golf tournaments, 4th of July, laser shows, old time baseball tournaments, family concerts and movie nights, family days. So there's no limit. It's almost like there's so much out there.
Yeah.
We have to sort of condense and decide what the town would like to see. And we were just talking about maybe, having a booth at Heritage Day to get feedback from the town, because we do have time.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that we're talking about is not just ideas for the celebration, but the sponsorship and fundraising and the efforts to get money put aside for the celebration and coming up with a budget. So it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, so.
I was just gonna, if she was done, I was gonna have Patty speak, and then you can jump on it. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure,
Were you all
sure.
set, Jenny?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I probably just have a couple of two quick little points. So
Unmute,
obvious-
you gotta unmute.
You might want to.
So I was, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a couple of things that we have to do is in discussing these events of who owns it.
Mhm.
Obviously, we need to work closely with rec in order to plan the events for the whole town. So we briefly brought this up at a previous meeting. Isn't it one of those?
Might already be there. Oh, there.
Sorry, a little
Right there.
volume issue.
Go ahead, Patty.
Okay, testing. Okay, that's good. So obviously, we need to work in close with recreation. I'm sure that you guys already have ideas or, just continuing on like the summer events and stuff. We need to discuss who owns those events we plan and also who, where if there's sponsorship money, where that sponsorship money goes to, because we don't want to take away from the coffers of the rec department. So there's some questions that we have to answer, but I think the first part is kind of trying to align with what the events will be and garnering support for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I had put in the spreadsheet of not just what the other towns, but also there's a tab that shows what our annual town events are. And I think what we need to do is decide if that is, we are enhancing what we already do. Or, we don't want to take away what people, count on every year, like Santa Day and the turkey trot and the gobble wobble. So are we going to work with you to supersize those events?
Kind of brand.
Yes, exactly. So I do have that list in there as well.
So when I talked to you at Gobble Wobble, I kind of mentioned this, and when I watched your previous meetings as well, I do think there's a lot of overlap, I think, from what you've been talking about and then what we're already doing. So looking at it, I thought of summer nights because I know where you're talking about fireworks and things of that nature. Heritage Day obviously is a no-brainer when it comes to this one. Gobble Wobble potentially, that's a friends thing, so obviously we have to pass with them. Summer concerts, so we have these events that have, already their clause in the community when it comes to summer. So when it comes to the Tricentennial piece, I just saw it as a natural avenue kind of to have these set events and, like you said, build upon what's already there and rebrand it for that particular year. I see no reason why we have to reinvent the wheel when we have things that are turning pretty smoothly, in my opinion. So yeah, exactly. Just make them bigger and grander to celebrate appropriately. I do think there's a gap in the spring. Just traditionally, it's not really a season that we've done big, wide community events. Love to change that, obviously. So I'm sure if we're thinking or tossing ideas around, I would say probably focus on the spring, just because we have those, those 8 to 10 weeks of the summer pretty covered now. I'm not saying we can't do more. We always want to do more. We have the fall, with school starting, and then we do the Gobble Wobble, and then Santa Day with the holidays at the end of the year. So I just think there's a natural fit to work this into what we're doing as well, and we'll obviously be open to it. But yeah, the spring I think would be the only thing. If we could come up with a couple new ones, I think it'd be wonderful. So
It would be fun to maybe utilize some of the places that we have in the community.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Chestnut Hill Farm or Beals Preserve or things. So there's a lot of ideas on that spreadsheet. And what I did do is I put the date.
Okay.
Sorry. I put the date of each event so you can see what they did at specific times a year. So if you wanted to add or, pad the spring, there's a lot of on that list.
Okay. Cool.
Were you all set, Patty?
Mhm.
Jim, good evening.
Hi.
Any
Yes.
questions, comments?
No questions or
And
comments.
unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted. Do you hear me?
You gotta turn your volume up.
It should be automatic.
Barely hear you.
I'll try and speak up. It's built into the camera. Anyway, nothing that I would add in a major way, other than I agree with Don, or Tim rather, there's a lot of existing activities that we can grow and build, and I like the idea of rebranding it, make it bigger and better. And I think over the long haul, maybe it'll promote more action or more involvement in these events in years to come as well. So it kind of is synergistic in a lot of ways. I think our challenge is going to be to take the big spreadsheet of all the possible ideas and start, prioritizing it and boiling it down. But I'm open to your suggestions, Tim, as to how we do that. Is there a way to maybe flag the ones in there that are already underway, and then we build off of that? Or what's the right way to, begin a a core group that maybe, I'm gonna make this up, maybe 150% larger than we need, so we can see how it goes and cull it and see about involvement and people want to sign up as we get closer to that actual year. Maybe keep the list at 150% of what we think we'd like to do until we get into, the fall before the year starts, and then we start to narrow it down and have it be bigger and better. But I think, in the vantage point from the standpoint of promotion and that letter I drafted and all that, putting the greatest hits in there and showing and actually having our own back pocket a longer list of possible events and activities and celebrations might be a good way to begin to do this. But tell me what you think, Tim. Do you want to take our list and flag it, or maybe Ginny and Patty, do we already know the overlap?
I mean, I'd love to take a look at it, take a stab at it, just to see. I've had ideas just in the spring, just leveraging what's happening in town with the different leagues that are going on, just because our youth leagues are so robust. And basketball ending at the start of the year with baseball, softball, field hockey, lacrosse, everything kicking off. I think there's opportunities, and I have to see the list, so it may be on there, so I apologize if it is, but opportunities to get youth groups involved just as much as just doing these big wide team events. So I'll definitely go through that list and flag what I think.
One of the things that the committee discussed at our previous meetings was actually targeting the spring. The incorporation date on our town logo is July 6th. But we all know that as soon as the last bell rings on the last day of school, the town empties out.
Yeah.
So we were targeting, June and the springtime to build up to that point. And then, and agreeing with you, I think what you're saying is that there's a ton of sports activities with the kids, but that might be a good target timeframe. And the other part of that was that, Vanessa, when is Shrewsbury's incorporation date? Aren't they in the fall?
They're 6 months after us.
Yeah, so we should go first, or at least before them. And then we've also been learning that getting our elected officials to put us on their calendar. So we're learning that, they're always busy. They're all over the place, the senators, the Congress. So getting them on our calendar so that they can actually show up and be with us.
We may have different elected officials by then.
We may. But
June makes sense if we're talking about.
June makes sense because if we're talking about summer and building upon what's already here, June's the kickoff for it. So that could kind of be a natural progression for the year, especially when it gets warmer and whatnot. So
Some of the towns we looked at actually did year-long events.
I'm sure,
Like first night, they
First,
started
exactly.
stuff
Mhm.
and went all the way through the year. So,
Yeah.
That's also something to keep in
Also a
mind,
possibility, yeah.
well,
I
I
don't
think
think
we all
anything's off
agree
the
that
table.
that's
something fun to do in
that's what
the
we're gonna
cold
do.
February days.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Polar plunge.
No, just
And the
no.
reservoir, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna sit here and say no to anything. I think everything's on the table. I don't think anything should be off the table. We have so much time. So I think it's a matter of just gathering feedback and seeing what we can do realistically. So, and whether that's rec specific, working with us, whether it's this committee, coming up with your own ideas sponsored by this committee, I'm sure there's different ways we can go about doing it.
So
So,
when you have your events, you need police
Mhm.
and I don't know, do you have extra like ambulance, fire people or?
yeah, so our events right now is all extra. So we hire on police and pay the overtime, everything like that's extra.
And that comes out of your budget?
The fundraise piece of it, yeah.
Do you mind if I ask, do you get involved? Do you get involved with Kinder Group? They do the Santa Day. They do the turkey trot. Are you working
We
in?
get involved lightly just because of the facility piece of it. So not so much in the planning piece of it, but permitting the facilities and making sure all that stuff's all fair and squared away. That's kind of our extent to it, just because they're outside organizations.
Okay.
Do you ever, or do you have any contacts with famous people?
Are there famous people that grew up in South Bronx?
Your number, done.
Vanessa and I were talking the other day, and I didn't remember the name of the actor, but when they filmed the movie here,
Oh, yeah, Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
and what was it? Adam
Oh,
Sandler?
Adam
Sandler
Sandler.
too, yeah.
So, wouldn't that be fun?
Be fun.
Having them march in the parade?
Not that connected, Don. Thank you, though.
Sorry. Some of the towns like Littleton, which had a phenomenal website, and you can plug right into every event. And then like the parade, they had a list of every single person in the parade and every float, and it was a great resource for coming up with, participants.
Yeah. that's
So
great.
it's a very comprehensive website. They didn't even know it was still up. It was 2014. But it does offer a lot of great ideas in establishing, a list of, and then one town had a float building workshop for people. Yeah.
This is a book from the Hudson 150th. And there's several pages in here. It's very well done. And Hudson had a subcommittee just to do parade.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of work.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was,
The little one that we do is a lot of work, so I can.
yes. So we're gonna share this with, have to take some of the personal information out of here. But the way they set it up and they organized it and they broke it down, I think there were at least one or maybe two people assigned to every float or every group. And
Could we
what,
scan that
and
and
what,
share it?
I have to redact the personal information from the people in Hudson. We don't have that, we don't have the permission, but the way it's set up is, and the way they did it is
Yeah.
so well organized. And, but their parade was a lot further than,
Yeah.
The railroad tracks to
Yeah.
here.
Well,
But we can,
ours could be too.
yeah,
Are we gonna stop for night? Shut it down?
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Tim, can you talk for a minute about the logistics around the fireworks that you do at summer nights and, what the cost is to plan something like that?
When you say logistics, what do you mean? So just like the start to end?
Yeah.
So cost wise, I'll just give you last year's. Cost 16,000 last year for summer nights. That was all encompassing. That was with fireworks, which ran us 7,000 for the display. Music, inflatables, marketing, vendors, porta potties, police details, all that stuff. Which is pretty basic. I think that's around what it's been year over year. But we start planning now. It's going to be released. The information on the dates will be released in 3 weeks. It goes out with our spring and summer brochure and kind of offering for the seasons. And then we start that fundraising campaign shortly after, around March, April. And really what that is, it's a generated letter that we come up with the opportunities and the packages of what we're offering for either summer nights or Heritage Day. They kind of overlap because they're so close. And what we're offering, and we target a lot of the big businesses that we have in town. We target our contact list that we have in house, and we send it out and we follow up. We kind of send it out, we let it sit. We usually get some loyal supporters that send back some funds, which is wonderful. And then we spend a good amount of time, either us or the Friends Group does a lot of fundraising for us, just because of our restrictions being a municipality. Reaching out and seeing if they're interested in helping in that way. It does spread organically, thankfully, especially as the event grows closer. But our bigger names are the big names in town: St. Mark's, the Bays, the Middlesex, Gene Martin, of course. And the Friends group is always for us, for rec centered. Friends is always great on that. But it's we start in the winter, February, March, and we go right up to the end of August with the event. And then when we're talking about Heritage Day, we probably pause it 2 months from now. So early spring, we'll start kind of forming that. That's admittedly a little easier, not as many moving parts. And it helps. We've been doing it for so long, so it's kind of cookie cutter when it comes to that.
Tim, out of curiosity,
5-6 months prior is when we really start the process. When PD and fire get involved, it's usually about 3 months out. Just talking logistics on their end and their plan and the changes that we're thinking. That's really the bigger speed, not a speed bump, but the bigger stoppage point within the whole thing. But it's a good 6-month effort, I would say, for each one that we do. So, and it has to be just because we're a small department. So,
Tim, out of curiosity, what of the 16,000 that it costs, how much of that are you
Are you
able
willing
to?
to share that list of contacts, the companies and businesses?
Yeah, and you can get it from the clerk's office as well. I think they have the list of the DBAs. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Or EDC may have it as well.
I've already gone through EDC and Brian Valentine.
Tim, I don't know if you heard me. The question I was asking was,
Go ahead, Jim.
of that 16,000 that it actually cost, how much of that roughly do you typically recoup with fundraising versus your own budget?
Last year, oops, sorry. I missed the first part of your question. You're saying how much it costs versus how much we fundraise?
Yeah, do you cover all the costs of it, the fundraising, or is it partial?
Not typically the last years, just because things have gotten so expensive. So last year, like I said, it was just shy of 16,000. We covered 11,750 of it, and then our budget, our accounts cover the rest of it in-house.
Yeah. So the question that I was leading up to about that is then, do we need to be thinking about if we're going to put out an appeal for participation and financial contribution, do we have to somehow firewall it, or how do we do it in a way where we're synergistic of what you're doing and not competing for investment?
Well, I think if we're building upon what's already there, I don't really think we're competing. If anything, we're elevating the opportunity for sponsors. That's how I would see it. I think there may be, advertising something, not that our things aren't important, but something, more of just a greater magnitude, of a special anniversary and elevated piece of program. So I don't really think we'd be competing. If anything, I think we may be at an advantage if we remarket it as a Tricentennial event. And you could do that different ways, as a whole package of the Tricentennial celebration as a whole, or event by event. So I think you can get pretty creative when it comes to that.
Yeah, this may have to come up with some apportionment because we do want to. I think, as I said before, packaging it as a super event and an overall year means that we'll be looking for a bigger participation if possible, but there may be more things on the list that aren't normally things that you have to fund. So I want to be fair about it. I think the notion of joining is ideal, but we should be smart about how we go about it so that it's properly apportioned.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I was going to ask you, Tim, and the committee. I want to ask you first, because if the answer is no, then there's the door. But when you say yes, then I'm going to ask the committee. But we would, and you and I have talked about this months ago, but to have you as a partner, not just a partner, but a formal, like maybe as much as like a subcommittee, where you would be asked to do certain things and thereby coordinating it with your efforts, and then help report that back to the committee, so that if you're unwilling or unable to do certain things, then the committee can go beyond your resources. So I'm not sure if it's appropriate to have a director of a department lead a subcommittee for this committee. But if it is, or somehow formalize the understanding between this committee and rec, then we can make sure that we're not conflicting or having duplication.
Mhm.
Let me ask the committee, is that something that?
Yeah.
Within the range of those things that?
I think it's within the range of us and also the Recreation Commission in general. So, having commission on our side as well. I think and I just think it's a no-brainer that we're involved in any way possible, just because of our, we hold the keys to the schedules of the fields and the permitting, and we know kind of what's going on that level. I just think it's a no-brainer, so.
So as we get closer, then you'd be attending almost every meeting.
Yeah. It's okay. I told you I live for these things now.
Okay, that's good. Feedback from our committee? Jenny?
So I'm just bringing up that program guide guild from 2015 Hopkinton. And they have a list of all their community celebration committee members, volunteers. Oh,
What page is that?
So that is page. I don't think the pages are marked. 6, sorry. And it does list like Hopkinton Moms Group, and that would be our equivalent of like Kinder Group. Parks and Recreation, Friends of the Library, so it lists all the different subcommittees that were part of the planning.
So they're actually listed as a
Yes.
subcommittee.
Well, there's Celebration Committee, and I don't know how many of these people overlap onto this. But then there were community volunteers, and then there's the organizations such as the police department and fire, town manager's office, all that. And then all the different. So I do think that the town does coordinate with all the subcommittees. But I mean, park, obviously rec is a big one because, but like historical, all would be a part. And I believe, aren't they supposed to have somebody from historical and all the different departments as part of this?
It's Jim.
That's Jim. Sorry, Jim. Yeah, I know that there was other committees too that the other towns I noticed had members.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim.
So am I hearing that you're okay if we can more formalize the relationship between us and rec? Rather than just Patty? I'm not saying to do it tonight, but
No, I think obviously we need Tim and his entire department and his resources to be a significant part of this, yeah.
And I brought this up at our commission meeting this past Monday, so they're aware of it. So they were all in favor that I was coming, obviously.
oh, great.
So I'm sure they'd be more than happy to be involved. Who
Jim?
knows who'll be on the committee at that point, but.
I'm all for it.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Tim tonight? Welcome to stay.
More contacts you.
Yeah, you can share that list with me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this might be jumping ahead a tad, but in regard to the sponsorships, I kind of like that idea of kind of, deciding what the events are throughout the year, putting together an entire sponsorship package where sponsors can kind of pick and choose what they want to sponsor.
For the menu.
But we don't want to step on your feet of doing that.
Mhm.
I mean, I suppose, I don't know how the municipal money thing works, but I suppose if we get a sponsor that's, you know, a big sponsor, we give the money to the rec for the fireworks or something, right? I mean, how does that, how would that?
I think Dawn and I talked about actually maybe at your next meeting, having a conversation with maybe the town accountant or the finance director to, you know, talk about the municipal finance piece. So everybody's on the same page.
So do we get his friends group to work on our sponsorship committee? That we put together a sponsorship
Maybe we could
package
have a rep
for
from
the
the Friends
entire
on our sponsorship subcommittee. And then, at one of the articles we'll talk about tonight at this town meeting is creating the fund to receive all those monies. And Tim has a
But would the
revolving.
money go to rec or to the Tricentennial?
I think maybe it could go either place, I think.
Conversation with Carla.
Yeah, because there might be some things that, you know, we'd require during the celebrations that Tim might have already set up with the vendor already, and maybe
Right.
it's easier for him to cover some things and we do the rest. I think that's an evolving conversation every time we settle on an event or a vendor.
Right.
There's definitely a positive way, either way of doing it. Putting the money where the people that perform the act, the event, directly is more efficient. Flip side of that would be if we start having these multiple accounts
Yeah.
or multiple places where we put the money, it'll be difficult for the public to see where the money
Be transparent.
is going.
Because I was kind of thinking, so, you know, you plan out the events for the year, put together a sponsorship package, and you might go for like a couple of big sponsors, Tricentennial sponsors, right? Where they're contributing more than just what somebody would for fireworks. And those people get their logo on each event, right, of the entire year of celebration. And then you would have people that are sponsors for individual events that are contributing less money. So that's what I'm saying, you know, I'm a little fuzzy on how the money thing would happen, but
That's why we wanted to
yeah,
talk.
that might be getting ahead of
Earlier,
ourselves, yeah.
Rather than later.
But it's good to let the public know tonight that that's what we want to do. We want to get ourselves educated as to the best way to receive the money and to use the money. So that the public can see it, they know what they're getting for their money, and there's specific people assigned to the money so that it's not a grab bag.
Ginny, this packet from Hopkinton that you sent is pretty
Can't hear
incredible.
you, Jim.
Let me get closer. I'm just gonna say, Ginny, the packet that you forwarded from Hopkinton is pretty incredible. It's literally got everything. And when it comes to the funding, they had different tiers of sponsorships in the back, from corporations down to individuals and, you know, gold, silver, platinum, all that. I think that's a wonderful model. If we start to pull things together around that kind of a recruitment activity, I guess maybe the question is, when do you launch that, or when do we launch that in a way where we don't peter it out too early? I mean, you have to probably capitalize on budgets for these companies if they're going to participate, you know, probably no more than 12 minutes in advance. So there's probably some logistics things that go into it. But on the other hand, that is a heck of a template.
Jim, at the very beginning, I'm not sure if we heard what template you're talking about.
This is the.
Oh, okay.
one that's-
Okay.
This right,
Okay.
this right here.
Yeah.
I mean, it has some sponsorship letters, it has pretty much everything
everything
that you need to run the event is right there.
Why
in the
reinvent
packet.
the wheel? Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Did you forward that to me? By chance? You
Yeah,
don't have to do it right now.
I just did.
Oh, you did?
I also know somebody who's on the committee pretty well. I just noticed his name there. Be happy to pick his brain a little bit.
So they started in January, the first event is January 23rd. So that means the,
And just use the space bar too.
no, it's just, I have too many other files open, so it's not in front. So the first event is January 23rd. So that means they had their sponsors in place before January 23rd. So I think you need 8 months prior to that. So then we're talking about, that's gonna be like April, May of
26.
26. That you are then doing the legwork on the sponsors, yeah.
It's not that far away.
Anything else? A few more items on the agenda tonight, so welcome to stay, welcome to continue this discussion. I'm just, we're at a point where we can move on, and we will.
I'll just say again, I want to be here to make clear I'm full support. Whenever you guys need, let us know. We're happy to be involved.
Great, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes of December 6th. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes as written for January 6th.
Motion's been made and seconded. All set with any questions, comments? Thanks, Tim. Good night. We'll do roll call. All in favor, Morris, yes. Aye.
Blaschke, aye.
I
You have to say your name.
Burns, Fiore, aye. Jim.
I said aye. Sorry about the audio.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is celebration ideas and suggestions. And I think, well, I'll let whoever wants to speak up. I know in Jim's draft letter, which we'll get to in a little bit, has a list of those, and we heard some more tonight. I think, Patty, you said something about January, and I think that's a timeframe that's important. New Year's Day, fireworks, New Year's Day, I don't know. Sugar on Snow, has anybody heard of that? Anybody know what that is? Sugar on Snow. It's maple syrup.
Maple syrup, yeah.
Yeah, so, something in the dead of winter.
Sleigh rides at Chestnut.
Sleigh rides, dog sled rides, ice sculptures.
That's a hard one. There's no.
It'd be tough this year.
Yeah, right.
Opening day breakfast. Ceremony.
And the kids go back to school on probably January 2nd or 3rd, depending on what the date is. And it would be to me, that would be an opportunity to have all the kids and the parents realize that that's day one, that's day two of the Tricentennial, and have something in all the schools. And I've noticed from these lists that doesn't seem to be a whole lot of information about how the schools in these towns participate. I'm sure they do, but
That was the question I had from one of the principals of the school, was how would the school be participating? I made stuff up.
But you're talking, how many kids? 1,000 kids,
Yeah.
800 kids with parents? So you got a huge audience right there on day
You
one.
really want to capture the kids, because if you
engage the kids, parents come
watch.
watch.
Right, and maybe that's
Parents
something
buy
that,
tickets.
you can do in coordination with the library or, with, an art show or.
There's a community theater in
in
town,
town,
Skyrise, that has probably 300 kids annually and participate in their events. And I did work for worked for a nonprofit theater organization, and I was their fundraising coordinator. And the trick is getting kids involved,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that brings the parents. And so maybe we could talk to them about doing a play about Southborough.
mhm.
And I mean, I know that the two directors, Tanya, I don't know her married name, Saunders, they were theater majors in college, and they have done a lot of theater. Maybe we could engage them to do something and then have the children participate as and do a musical kind of thing.
which could have occurred back in 1727, 1827, so on. There were children then, they had musical instruments, they could have produced a play. But now, in 2027, we have video, we have movie production equipment at Algonquin, don't we? And maybe even at Trotter. It's been a while since my kid was there, but so have the schools, St. Mark's Faith School, produce a movie, a sitcom, a documentary.
Who was it who was here the first night that said they would love to do some
kind of documentary? It was Andrew?
Steve?
Oh,
That was Steve.
so was it maybe Andrew Denny?
I think it was Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He said something about he really would like to get involved with the schools and the historical component and do something like that. I mean, I think if you want to I love the idea of a movie. One of the towns, I can't remember off the top of my head, did do a movie, but I also love the idea of live theater.
I like the live theater, like,
Live music, live theater, getting an audience. Sorry, do we have, I know that Southborough doesn't have an auditorium big enough, so Skyrise Productions uses theater in Westboro. But do we have access to maybe St. Mark's or
do they have a theater big enough?
Well, we could have multiple
Multiple showings.
Oh, absolutely.
by the time they get through third or fourth night of day of acting, they'll all remember their lines.
Would be very good.
But I think that's pretty much a given, that there would be some type of a musical or a play with the students having parts. But the movie also would memorialize the actors. So that in 21, 27, when they plug in their floppy disk to watch it, who was the star of that? You know, these kids would be forever carved in history.
That might be a great idea for Algonquin's theater department to put on,
Oh, sorry.
Well, I think a lot of those ideas come back to, they could be sort of funneled through various subcommittees and maybe that's, the next discussion, what subcommittees do you want to start creating now and, finding volunteers.
And having them come up with the ideas that they want to do.
Right, because there will be,
Well, isn't
lots
that
of different avenues.
I mean, that's kind of where that letter leads
Yes,
us.
yeah.
The letter was intended to go out to all the organizations and stuff to
Mhm.
garner interest and see what ideas they have.
We could have a 12-month TV series. It would be aired once a month, and it would build on itself until the grand finale in December,
You know how much work that would be, right?
not for us, but I'm sure, like you said, Ginny, people would, there's not that many opportunities for that to happen. And this is they could have the first episode of My South Bro or South Bro, whatever, with the characters being in 1727 and work their way up through the centuries.
Mhm.
I really like the idea of deciding a little bit about what kind of subcommittees that we would want. Because one of them could be sort of the idea committee. And I think we are in data collection mode right now where we just need to decide. I mean, we could debate ideas all night because they're limitless. You go onto these websites, you go onto Westboro's Tricentennial Facebook page, and it's 2 years of nothing but what they did and promotion and all that. It's pretty amazing. But if we, know that we need a fundraising committee, and we know we need sort of
Arts and culture.
culture committee, I love it. Yeah.
Sports, there's a golf, right?
Golf tournament,
tournaments,
softball game.
Yeah,
So I love the idea of kind of coming up with committee ideas,
so
arts and culture, fundraising. I haven't really memorized that Hopkinton Guide enough to know, but I'm sure there's plenty on there about what they use for committees.
Jim, anything to add at this point? You gotta unmute, there you go.
I think that's a good next step. I was going to suggest that two things we didn't really get, other than an informal commitment from Tim that he would participate, but basically asking him to look at our list and show us where there's overlap with what they're already doing was one action I think he informally agreed to. Before we do that, I was going to suggest that maybe we just pick the greatest hits out of the towns, and the ones I think I've seen the most out of are Holliston, Littleton, Hopkinton, and Westboro. If there's more, tell me. But one or more of us, I'm happy to join in us on this, could put together a master list. Now, I know, Ginny and Patty, Ginny, I guess you were organizing the spreadsheet. Is it organized by town where you can cross-reference it? I haven't had a chance to look at it tonight.
Yes, so that, let me get it. So each town has what year they celebrated or when they're celebrating and their chronological list of events and the months that those events took place. Some of the towns are, very comprehensive with their websites, and you can deep dive into every event and look at everything from, Littleton's parade was probably 25 pages long of what went into that parade.
Right.
So
Well,
it's sort of endless information, but it tried to be concise to.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was a tab or a spreadsheet for each town. but we haven't put together a master cross-reference that shows all the events and how many towns did it, and maybe that would be a format where we could kind of either vote or see how it comes together with as I say, a greatest hits. So we take this master list of, that I'd be happy to make of all the various towns events, mash it together so we have all the ideas in one place, and then we can start to, see what we think our 150% is, and then ask Tim to go in and highlight where there's overlap with what they're doing. I mean, that's one possible next step forward. Tell me what you think.
On the spreadsheet, I actually have the second tab, which I believe has most of the town activities that either are recreation or some of the like kinder group events that are annual, like the Easter egg hunt and the Santa Day. So and the usual date of that event. So I think what I got from Tim was he wants to pad them. Well, we're going to rebrand them, but then he wants to pad them with other events that take place where we don't have anything, like the springtime. And that there's, like you said, the sports and recreation subcommittee can plan whether we do the, baseball day, they also have a ton of the towns did family picnic day. I mean, we definitely have the places for these events in our town, that can accommodate a huge group of people. But so I'm sorry, you could just tell me a little bit more. You want that, like, do you want to, how would you organize?
I think he's looking to have it organized so that you can sort by event and see how many towns did it. So like, tell me everybody that did great.
Everybody did a gala, pretty much everybody did a big gala. Am I muted? No. Everybody had like a field day, everybody had a parade, everybody had fireworks.
What I was saying is I'm offering
And
to
then
do that
each
overall.
town had a lot of special things that were related to the town, strawberry festivals, water events at different lakes, things like that. So maybe if you have, if we all have time to take a look at the list, and then, you'll be able to see what events do overlap.
All right. Vanessa, I'm looking for that link to the spreadsheet that you originally sent. I don't have it handy somehow. Can you resend it to everybody?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You'll like it.
Just look at, there's two tabs. The second tab is Southborough. Yes.
Any more on this agenda item? We can keep going or move on.
I mean, I think we could spend
3 years.
I was just gonna say 3 years talking about what we could do.
So, okay to move on to the next item, which is the website alternatives.
Oh. Sure. So, I.
Oh, sorry, I'm down on that. Yeah. Review of warrant articles. Yeah, I was on the wrong one. Okay to move on to that? Okay, so in our packet, we have the 2 draft warrant articles that Vanessa and I, mostly Vanessa, drafted, and there's a big item. Well, the first article creates the we get permission from the people to have a fund. And that's pretty consistent. That language is pretty consistent with the samples that we had. And some of the wording, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't just limited to special events. So we added or other associated costs related to the anniversary. So that we could purchase merchandise, which is not an event, but it's a cost. And other things that would come along. So is there any questions or comments on that first draft warrant article, which creates the fund, creates an account in the town to receive our funds?
This is one little typo on the third line. Two-thirds of the way in, DA Tricentennial Committee.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Both of the articles look fine to me. Does it make sense to have town council take a quick look at it to make sure that it's ready to go?
He will, Jim, as, oh, hang on.
He looks
As
at everyone.
part of the review of the annual town meeting warrant, he'll be taking a look at these two as well.
So the second one is asking the people to appropriate the sum of $30,000. And that's based on our current knowledge of what other towns have spent, which is certainly over 75,000, and we haven't yet found one that's over 100,000 for a town our size. But this number, we've seen others to a limited extent not appropriate enough money early so that when the year before the celebration, it's a big ticket item, it's a big number. So between now and when this goes before the people, we would have done considerable research that would give the people comfort in appropriating that kind of money, or we would adjust the number up or down based on our continuing research. We want to make sure that we have enough funding and have it spread out over the years, 3 or 4 years, and not have to do it all in one fiscal year. So, and the way it's worded is, people are going to say, well, what are we going to get for $30,000? And between now and the town meeting, we have some idea, thanks to Tim, giving us the cost of some events that he puts on. And between now and then, we'll have a better idea, I hope, of how this money can be spent
But we're also going to seek
earlier.
sponsorships to offset this cost too, right?
Yes. But again, this article is based on what other towns have appropriated from the people. And then there may, from my research, not sure how much, in addition to what the people appropriated at town meeting, how much more money they needed to perform all of these different celebrations. But again, we're going to need to have, I think, a good, solid explanation other than, well, we just don't want to do it all in one year. We're going to need to have some funding earlier than later so that we can, the first thing we've talked about in our previous 2 meetings was merchandise. And you need money up front to pay that, and then maybe it would all get paid back when people purchase the merchandise, celebration merchandise. But I think, Vanessa, at some point, you mentioned bunting. That stuff is, it's cool. It's in all the old photos.
Right, Patty found that one when President Roosevelt came to Southborough in, was that mid 1800s?
No, it was about.
Forget which year it was, but again, that photograph shows, this building covered in the most beautiful patriotic bunting, which we don't own anything like that right now. So, I think
Somewhere around
it's something.
1930, 31.
I was.
Maybe, yeah.
Was it?
It was, I'm pretty
Teddy,
sure
right?
that it was when he came to Southborough.
Teddy
The,
Roosevelt?
I don't.
I think he was,
Where's
I think he
Jim?
was dead by 1930.
So we'll have to look up
Could
the
have been
reference
Franklin.
to that.
FDR.
But again, that's something that, that might be a good use of some seed money, if we were to get that. That money would be available to the committee on July 1st. And of course, anything that is reimbursed or brought in through sponsorships, at the end of 2027 or in 2028, when we make sure we've paid all our bills, that article will then return to the general fund. We go through a process to do that every year with old articles. So it's not like it would be spent on anything else. Whatever is left over would come back to the general fund to fund future appropriations for town meeting.
So that's two things
So May
that struck me
1.
about.
Go ahead, Jim, sorry.
Right. There's two things that we might want to make more specific in the second warrant. One is the year that we're asking for this money. It's implied that it's at this current town meeting, but we should say for fiscal 2025 or whatever the right number is. So we should nail it down. We should also, I think, to what was just said, put the clause at the end saying at the end of the year, any surplus funds will be returned to the town fund. So then we put that in there as, look, we're not here just to collect a lot of tchotchkes. But I think, in fact, if 30,000 was something we could get now, I don't know that we'd be successful in raising that much right away. Maybe they're going to give it to us, 10,000 a year, but there's some form of a fiscal plan that says we need the money for these things in these years, or be specific about how the time frame we're looking for this, because otherwise it appears to be a bit general.
Did you happen to see the warrant article that I found on the Littleton?
Is that one of the ones we looked at, Vanessa?
This is, they had a motion to raise and appropriate $50,000 to be expended by the Tricentennial General Planning Committee to fund the 300th anniversary celebration. Article was declared passed, and that was in 2013, and their celebration was 2014.
50,000.
And the other thing I wanted to note, in the next few weeks, the selectmen will be, fine tuning the warrant articles. We have a joint meeting planned, I believe, for February 13th with the advisory committee to talk about the budget and the warrant articles. So, we want to make sure both of those committees are well up to speed on what the board is looking to do.
So we okay with it the way it is? At this time, although, when these articles are, presented, there's a summary. And, the summary for the first article is here on our page. Vanessa and I were gonna work on the summary for, the money article. And thanks to, we'd either put it in the summary, what Jim was suggesting, and other more, hopefully more details, so that as we're all aware, that people are gonna wanna know what this money is gonna be used for. And it may not all be expended in FY 25. And there will probably, hopefully be some carryover. So we're never at a point where we're broke. Spend it all in first 6 months of FY 25, and then we don't have any money for the rest of the fiscal year. That's not the way we should operate.
I believe that a lot of the other towns, used it for their website design. Establishing 501c3s. I don't know if that's something that we are going to discuss. Janae, from the junction to me.
Again, that's, I think, would lead to us having Brian
Mhm.
Valentine
About
talk to
financial
us about,
overview at your next meeting.
yeah. Which would also be knowledge that we would have to help explain to the people why we want a certain amount of money. Whether it's 30,000, 300,000, or 3,000. So,
Oh,
Jim,
I found Northfield.
yeah,
2020, they got 5,000, 2021, 5,000, 2022, 60,000, 2023, 11,000. So was that?
yeah, that's on the spreadsheet that I submitted, and I was amazed because there's less than 3,000 people in that town, and that's $80,000, so they must have had a really good celebration. So there's an art and a science to these articles. You want to make sure that you give the people enough information so they know what they're exactly what's going to happen with the money. But if you provide so much more detailed information, then you could be limiting yourself to something that we would want to spend the money on during that fiscal year that we're not aware of at this point. So the words are a blend between trying to be as specific as possible and not limiting, being general enough so that we're not limiting ourselves to things that at this point we're not sure we would need or want to purchase. So Jim suggested that within this article, I'm not sure if that language would be better off for FY 28's article, which would be, is that right? Would be 2027?
Yes.
So if we put in this article that if there's any money at the end of this fiscal year, we throw it to the general fund, we don't want to do that.
No.
We want to, but we can clearly say that,
It would have to be after the conclusion of Tricentennial.
right, so would we want to put that language in the article? That at the conclusion, there'd be, I guess, a general sentence that we would use this year, next year, and the year after, saying that if there's any money left over, any money left over from this, that it would go back into the general fund once all the tricentennial bills are paid. Is that what you intended, Jim?
Exactly, but also like a specific reference to when we want the money and how much now versus maybe later. If we're saying 30,000 now for fiscal 2025, we should say that specifically, I think, as opposed to just mention the number.
But if we spend 20,000 in FY 25, and we want to spend the remaining 10,000 in FY 26, I think that language would prevent us from doing it. We don't want to be constricted by having to spend the whole 30,000 in the next fiscal year.
Agreed.
The reason
Agreed.
that the number might be more than what we need is so that it's not such a big hit as we get closer to 2027.
Exactly. No, I understand. I'm just saying that it doesn't say, unless that's inherent in a warrant article, that the money you're requesting is granted in the coming fiscal year. If that's built into the way that works, then we don't have to ask when. But if it's not, if we're just saying we want 30,000 for the tricentennial, I was saying we should be specific about a grant date of the money.
But all articles in this warrant are relative to that specific town meeting.
Okay, all right,
So
then
it would be available if voted, if the 30,000 is approved at the March town meeting, it would be transferred on July 1st into this new fund that the town accountant will set up.
And be available to us
And then you can start drawing
for
on
the
it.
next several years.
Yes.
It
Yes.
wouldn't be limited.
No, I think he's not, he's wanting you to qualify the fiscal year for the ask, not for the expenditure. Is that correct, Jim?
yes, I was gonna say it, but on the other hand, that's built into the way a town warrant works. The ask is
Yes.
now, you get it now, then we don't need it.
It is, but it wouldn't hurt to say, during, fiscal year 25.
We'll see what town council
Yes.
and Brian and others might say, yeah, you don't need to say that, it's baked in.
Right. Okay.
And then maybe in the summary, Vanessa,
Mhm.
we would tell the people that this appropriation or at the end of the celebration, bills are paid, any money left over would be returned to the general fund. And that leaves the door open, I guess, for the people give the fund 30,000 this year. And then next year they say, no, zero. And the next year they say, no,
Don't
zero.
plant any ideas.
So that the whole thing
Good muffled.
would still have the 30,000. And then if the people say, we don't want you to spend, you can spend 5,000 on fireworks, and that's it. And then the rest of the money goes back in the general fund. Because we have more important things to do.
It doesn't really work that way. They don't, they vote on a dollar amount, not on a line item. That shouldn't be a problem.
I don't think it would be, but it maybe it was worth saying.
I also
We all
had a
done with
note,
this,
Oh, hang on, I think Jim's.
Go ahead, Jim.
I also had a note that the due date for any warrant request is late January, so we might need to, if we're gonna revise this, turn it around very quickly.
So that's already taken care of, Jim, because I've let the town administrator know that we have these 2 articles that are in process, so he has a placeholder in the draft warrant for that now.
Great.
So we can move forward with the language, with the exception of the typo.
Same typos in the second one too.
And the summary, which Vanessa and I will hopefully finish up soon, send it out to you guys. And then when are you gonna give this to, do you give it to Mark Purple?
Yes.
When would that be?
I think I'll give him this draft language now, and then at your February meeting, we'll fine tune anything. And we'll, make sure we do that before the selectmen sign the warrant, which will be the last week in February.
That's a plan.
Can I ask for one more tiny little edit?
Can you unmute Patty?
Okay, on line 3,
First article.
first article, line 3, sale of merchandise, comma, tickets, comma, or donations, comma. Because You're adding the clause of authorizing the Tricentennial Committee. Okay.
We talked about that.
Vanessa, neither of us, well, I'm not an English major, but we talked about putting a comma there and.
It needs a
what-
comma.
And what did you say, Vanessa? We'll see what the,
Always err on the side of the Oxford comma.
right, yeah, that's interesting that we predicted that might be a discussion item. Okay. All set then, for now?
Good.
Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item.
Do you have to have a motion to approve the warrant?
You could do that now, or you could wait till your next meeting for the final language.
Okay.
Because really what we're giving to the, putting in the warrant right now is still draft.
Okay.
Oh, I've lost my agenda. Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the letter next.
the next one on the next item on the agenda is warrant articles discussion. Item. The introduction letter, the draft that Jim put together. I have a couple of suggestions, but Jim, did you further make any more revisions to what you gave us?
All I did was, Steve noted a typo in the end where I had said 2024. I've changed it to 2027 and sent that to Vanessa. Also, the other general comment here is this is just a draft. I was plucking, I think the introductory language, it serves it well, but that list of what's in the middle can completely change or get built on as we go forward.
The last meeting or the one before that, I suggested we go and do the personal touch, and then I think the committee, thanks to you, Jim, said, no, let's do a letter. And I'm really glad that we have this. This is an excellent way to get the word out. And so this 300 logo, is that your work?
A little cut and paste. That shouldn't be considered artistic at all. Patty or somebody can probably do a far better job.
I think we could touch that up a little.
Being a former government guy, I like it because it looks governmenty. And I was actually thinking this afternoon after I saw those logos that the fourth graders did in New Hampshire, we would have on our letterhead the 300 as you have it, and then on the other side of the top of the page, we would have the contest winner logo in crayons, and in the middle we would have our usual letterhead. But just I like that. Now that first, it says July 8, 2027. And
That's
on the top,
in my notes, not true.
It's July 6th.
well, I know there's been some recent discussion about that, but until the town's stamp gets changed, which says incorporated July 6, 1727, we should probably stick with that.
Okay.
And then celebrate Southborough. Is that that's kind of consistent with what the other towns that we've been looking at, using that type of simple, but get to the point words.
Again, no pride of ownership in the logo. These are just suggestions.
Down to the second paragraph, where it says, second line, we're in the early stages of planning and would like your ideas and potential participation. I thought the word potential lets them do nothing. So if we get rid of the word potential, but just my suggestion. And then down the 1 through 11, the 100 floats, not sure if we should limit ourselves to a number.
Entire town is gonna be.
And I'm not sure if we've discussed a goal, more than one float probably. So I'd remove the word at 100.
I put it in there because I thought we ought to be shooting for something. And it's hard to picture more than 100 floats going down the street. Maybe we'd get that many, but if we don't put a goal in there of some number, I think we're shooting too low. My suggestion.
You want to resolve that now, you guys?
I
Patty?
think 100 is too many. I think you're never gonna get it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a list of Littleton's here of their floats.
And this one over here is
It was
Hudson.
miles and miles long. I don't know, like, what is our parade gonna be?
I think that's hard to assign a final number when we don't know a route yet, but I think it should be at least,
Dozens?
40.
So here's the list here, this is, so there's probably 20, 40, 60, most like 80 on this list.
You could start with something like 50, just to have something in there for now to get the letter out and then always refine it.
So Jim, you want to put a number in there? You want to have a number?
I think it's useful, but if you want to make it 50, I'm okay with that.
And then we have floats, which I think might cover what I'm going to suggest or ask. The bands and military units, but organizations and, like the Shriners, I'm not sure if they would.
Scouts.
The scout, yeah. This is a really comprehensive list that I could send to everybody. This was on. Sorry.
I will send out this very comprehensive list to everybody of Littleton's parade order. And it will give you a really good idea, like the library, veterans units, but they also had American Legion bands, political groups.
But for the purpose of this letter, shouldn't it just be a general word like, I'm thinking organizations, but there might be a better word.
No, I like organizations.
When I put 100 in there, I meant that the sum total of floats, bands, military units, everything was, entities in the parade. So I wasn't trying to suggest 100 floats by any means. Did it? It came across as 100 floats. That's not what I was after.
That's the way we read it. Yeah.
100 participants, you could do maybe 100 participant organizations, participating groups, organizations, floats, military.
I'll update it with that.
I'm not sure I understand why we need a number here. We're just trying to throw out ideas of what are the kinds of events we're talking about, right? Because we're not, and we don't want them to come back and say, yeah, I like 1, 4, and 7. We want them to come back with original ideas to this.
What about if we said something like to include floats, bands, military units, community organizations,
But that's,
instead of just the 300th town parade, to include floats, bands, military units, community organizations? We don't have to say how many.
but do we even have to say bands and military units? I mean, it's a parade.
We do want it to look bigger than our Heritage Day parade, I hope. If I saw this as a letter as a resident, I would think Heritage Day parade. That lasts
Yes,
10 minutes.
yeah.
So we do have to kind of allude to the fact that this is a real big time event.
Maybe I can put something in there about expanding on our normal or our annual Heritage Day and Summerfest events. To where it's saying we're making this a larger combined, celebration.
Could we just say that with one word? 300th Grand
Yeah.
Town Parade? And leave it to their imagination? I don't.
Something like that better. Something like that.
Let's keep moving. We can come back to it if we have to. Number 2, St. Patty's Day breakfast. Maybe not put the finger on the Boy Scouts yet.
Just cross that out.
Just leave the St. Patrick's Day breakfast. That limits it to a specific day, whereas the next item is the family barbecue, which could be, it would be a day, but it wouldn't limit it to a specific day. I kind of like that one. Golf tournament, softball tournament, arts festival, the laser light show. We should have talked to Tim about that.
Well, that could enhance the regular
Summer nights.
summer nights.
Yeah. Oktoberfest, the historic homes, holiday tours, that's popular.
Mhm. I already talked to her about that. Cape Bells.
The gala dinner event, grand finale. I added a couple more just to think about it. Tree plantings. So that 100 years in 21-27, there'd be a huge elm tree on the town common or other places in town where we'd plant these tricentennial different species of trees.
Is that in lieu of a time capsule?
Oh, no.
Yeah, time capsules are a big thing in
Time
this.
capsule.
Yeah.
Do you know if there was one in 1927?
No, but I thought,
I've never seen it written about. No.
I thought we did one in 1977.
250.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But who knows where it is?
There is a photo album somewhere in the building. I think it's in the basement from that event. I have to find that.
Historic photo and document displays. Educational events in schools. And then merchandising. Memorabilia, merchandise. But we have to get this just on one page. So we could rearrange the vertical nature and make 2 columns. Then my other, the next sentence starts with we. And the next paragraph starts with we. I was thinking if we deleted that first sentence, we are hoping everyone will be part, to just delete that and start the paragraph with the together sentence. And then my other suggestion, the word potential again in that last paragraph. Get rid of that.
Okay,
And then at the end, and it might be too early or a way to say this better, but I'm saying, please visit our Tricentennial link on the town website and join us at our monthly public meeting. like, it's an invitation to go to the website, but if they go to the website, there isn't much there right now. So maybe a way to say it, in the coming
Well,
months.
one thing we could do is on the website, you can create, like a check off. I want to receive agendas from this committee, or I want to see, updates from this department. We could add the Tricentennial Committee there to start, creating information to push out.
So you could say, if you would like to receive information or be.
Mhm.
Can you put a link to that on the Tricentennial Committee page?
Yes, yeah. I think right now the Tricentennial Committee page, I was talking to our IT manager about this, is very bland. It just has the charge right now. So,
And our
now,
names.
yeah, now that the committee's, work has begun, Jay and I can restructure that, so we now can create room for, here are minutes and agendas, add, some of those historic photos and start building out that page.
And also informing of our next actions, and really, our
Right.
next action is the warrant articles. And I would hope that we could get this letter out certainly before town meeting, so that when we appear at town meeting, or these articles appear, they're gonna say, who are these people? Where'd they come from? But if they all get the letters ahead of time, which I think is essential, it'll help us.
You also should write something for my Southborough
Mhm.
in support of it.
Don, are you saying drop the reference? Are you saying instead of saying please reply to begin a dialogue, you're saying please visit our webpage and indicate your participation?
Yeah, it could, hang on. I'll talk to the IT manager this week about adding that, like that listserv capability for the website. So, and then we can give a link to that section, Jim, where that's located on the town website.
Yeah. So that's what we're saying, Don. We'll change the please reply to please visit our webpage and indicate your interest or something like that.
Right.
But how are we getting them to respond to this letter? So if this letter goes out to the group of organizations and somebody says, oh, I have this fabulous idea, are they just going to send an email?
I agree.
Is it gonna be?
Is this a call to action
Should
letter?
we be doing like a Google form instead of, this, where they can, put input?
I think it should be a call to action. Not just, join us, please join us.
Well-
Right, so that's what I'm saying, is like to ask them to reply or fill out the Google form with their specific ideas and to
Love that.
confirm that we have the correct contact person.
But do we want to have this letter put them to work? I know we talked about this, but we said we want to inform them of our existence and of what we are charged with doing.
Yeah.
And that not asking them to do anything at this point.
But we're looking for ideas, right?
Right,
But
ideas,
participation.
okay.
Like if we did a Google form, which I'm really, really warming up to, do you represent an organization or are you part of an organization that would like to participate? Are you, I think that's like.
Because a Google form would be good, because then you could link a Google form to, like a press release, or to, to Beth Milo or something for my Southborough, that she put the link in for a Google form, so that we're collecting that information.
Yeah, that's a great way to collect that.
Jim, are you in agreement that asking them to submit ideas, other things?
Yeah. Just trying to think of the best way to make sure they engage, because I completely agree that this is a call to action letter. It's not just an information announcement.
Okay.
I'd be happy to wordsmith a little bit.
So you're being relieved of duty,
Oh, no.
Jim.
You had, this is a great letter, but I'm just happy to,
No, I have a few edits too. Maybe we can
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
put some edits together and we just email it to Jim to save some time. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
mhm.
Yeah, thank you. Mark it up. I sent a Word version and a PDF. If you want to just make changes on the Word and let those changes be reflected, I'll be happy to build it into another update.
Do I just track editing on?
Yeah, change tracking. Yeah,
Yes,
please.
okay.
You're back on duty.
No problem. I've got a
Let's
committee
do
helping me.
Ginny's ideas and then we'll, Patty, right? Ginny?
For the letter?
Yeah. Or,
I think it's easier just to mark it up and we send him.
Yeah, I would,
edits.
I want to spend some
Okay.
time on
And
it.
then, yeah, and then
And
Jim
then
can
your
kind
next
of,
meeting, you could, approve your final version.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Jim can kind of weed through what
Mhm.
everybody sends him as edits and decide.
and then
what's
this would be launched to all those organizations, as an email or as an attachment?
It's a Google
It's a
form,
Google form.
so they just go to the address and it's a questionnaire.
It's a link. There'd be a
But it
link
would
in
be
the-
distributed through email.
Yeah, it's a link in the email.
Is this an
that
email?
Takes you to a Google form.
This
to
this
fill
is
out.
a letter.
Right, but I mean, it would be sent out to all those organizations through the contact list, I assume, that Patty created.
Yeah, that was
So
plus. others.
Plus the residents.
would,
It could, sure, it could be, go to resident, I mean, it could.
I mean, it would be
that
on
link-
on your committee webpage
Yeah,
too.
that link
Mhm.
would be on the committee webpage.
Mhm.
Right.
We would put it out through our Twitter account and our,
Yeah.
other stuff.
And I'm assuming at some point there'll be a Facebook page.
would our signatures be on this letter?
If you want them, we could do digital signatures, or people could just stop by and sign the final version, and we could scan that.
Do you not want
Or it
them?
could be the chair.
No, I think it's important that our signatures are on there so they know it came from
I was kind
people.
of thinking it would be signed by the chair and then we could list everybody's name.
Any,
That would save space.
Yeah.
I don't think it would look as messy.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
would look neat.
that's fine. I just think a signature, makes it.
A little more personal.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
I like that idea.
Well, but then you're putting, because you're doing an email. So
That's
to
what I'm
have an
saying, it'd be
actual
an attachment.
signed email, yeah, right,
But it would be a scanned version of the final letter, so Dawn could come in and.
no, it's
Why?
gonna be, we're gonna send it as an email, well, that is the question that I.
Oh,
was gonna bring
I
up,
was,
is how is this gonna be sent out? You know, do we establish like a MailChimp account to send it out? Is it sent out through the town?
is this going to residents?
The first version is going to organizations, but it could go to, I mean, I don't know whether, I don't think every resident is on that email list, right? It's only people that have
No.
requested it.
No, yeah,
So
the
I
other thing
think
you,
you would have to start by publicizing the link to a Google form to get people to fill it out.
you could also do a handout at town meeting,
Sure.
and create more publicity that way,
A handout to the people, but not, the
Right.
organizations would get them before that.
Correct, yes, yes.
So my thought was that you do like an e-blast kind of thing, not, you don't wanna scan it and have it in
Yeah.
attachment, because then you're gonna have people that don't get their attachments. Attachments are firewalled. or-
Right. So let me talk to Jay about that. I don't know what our capacity is, how many people we can have on an account like that. It just.
It'd be really, I mean. it'd be
But the
free to
rec
set up
department
MailChimp.
has a really large, sort of email. The rec department, when they send their stuff out, I know that their list is really long. So if it's going out that way, it should be fine on our server, I would think.
But again, people get that rec notification because they've signed up. for the rec-
They've chosen to sign up.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
we wanna be able to send to these organizations. So I don't know how that could come from,
Right.
that's why I'm suggesting a MailChimp account. which I think you can do for a free account. You could probably do up to, I think it's 500 names.
Okay.
Limited, maybe you can only send it twice a month or 3 times a month or something, but I think it's more, a free MailChimp account is probably more than what we would need for this.
Okay. Good.
So also in regard to this list,
Patty, can you unmute? Sorry.
so in regards to the list, I would love it if people could look it over. Because I know that there's people that I've missed. I mean, I've already written down a couple of, just from what we've been talking about. I didn't have Chestnut Hill Farm on here. Or what is it called? The Art at Beals Preserve? Is that through
Art
the,
on the Trails.
yeah, is that through the Art on the Trails? Is that through the Arts Council? I think that's kind of a separate little,
I sponsored it last year.
I think it's a little separate organization.
I
Anyway,
just know who I know the contact.
so I kind of put at the end the ones that I was missing pieces on. Now, the one that I sent you has the email addresses too, so you can tell whether email addresses are missing. The ones that are here, I've pretty much confirmed with either contacting people or, through current information.
So we don't have the email address.
It's in the Excel file that I sent you all last Friday. So one is if there's any emails that are missing that you know of, or if I have an incorrect name, please note that. If there's any additional organizations that you can think of, note that. So we're not really talking about businesses yet for sponsorships. We're really keying in on Southborough things. I don't know. Should we include businesses? I've included a list of political or elected officials here.
It would be great if we could do businesses.
Do the businesses too. Okay, so I'll hit up Tim for that list. I mean, that might be a second letter just to fine tune it for businesses, how they can be involved. Whereas this is going more to like employees of the town and organizations to get ideas and to let them know this is coming up. So should I take a crack at putting together a Google form? Do you want to work with me on that too?
I have never. I use a Google form in my business.
You've never put one
I
together.
didn't design.
Yeah. We can
So
talk
I'd
about- yeah,
love to work with you.
yeah, sounds good. We probably, so could you, I can send Jay an email, I guess. Vanessa, we want to be able to use the town. Have a Google? Yes. So we could
You two wanted
create
to read on all of the
we
questions?
could create a Google form on the town's Google.
Yeah, well, we have a couple of different areas where we do that, so there's one or two things. You could just write up all the questions and give them to Katie Barry in our office downstairs, and she can load it all for you. And then give you the link that can be, part of the letter or distributed anywhere else. That's what's worked well with other Google forms.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, this was a big job and well done.
Very
Thank
well
you.
done. Yes, thank you.
I know there's more that I'm missing, but
I have a couple I'll give you.
do you?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
afterwards.
I was
Are
gonna
we all
ask
set with this?
one more thing. In the
Go
letter,
ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say, in the letter, We're going to put a link to a Google sheet or something like that for feedback, but at some point we want to have a Facebook page, possibly in addition to the town website. Nothing wrong with the town website, but having a Facebook page, maybe a Twitter feed, I don't know, but more than just the official website, there might be something a little more community oriented that we add to this. And if so, we should create a framework and get that straw man in place before this letter goes out.
I agree. If you want to look at Westboro's Facebook page, I can send the link to that. Excellent. And it chronicles the whole celebration. Is very well done. Somebody has to manage.
Does the town of Southborough have a Facebook page?
We do not. There are, many departments that do, but the select board office does not.
So how are
We
those-
use Twitter more.
So how are those Facebook pages? Because it has to be linked to an account. So how are those
Yes.
Facebook
So it's
pages
done
set
by
up?
each department individually, if they have one. So the email address that's associated with, that administrator for that page, I assume is, the department head or, someone who's social media savvy. in
So
the
then when that
department.
person leaves, that account has to be changed?
Transferred over, right.
Okay.
I mean, we could certainly, open one for the Tricentennial Committee and manage it out of our office. We just never did it in the beginning because at that time the select board, was more in favor of Twitter, just to sort of push information out than Facebook at the time. So we never went down that Facebook
You
road.
can do them at the same time.
Right.
Yeah,
And then they can post,
right,
in a synchronous format to all those accounts.
right.
Under the spreadsheet that I gave you, and under the town of Westboro is a link to their Facebook page that you could just see how it was operated.
So just delete the west. and substitute it with south,
Yes, that easy.
maybe a different zip code. Are we done with that to move on? Okay, so discuss website alternatives. Did we just discuss that?
I think we did.
Pretty well covered. I'm gonna, go over a number of those things with Jay.
Research events from,
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe we have him come to one of our next few meetings and talk a little bit more about the technology piece, the digital media, that sort of stuff.
Because I don't, have we finalized whether we're going from the website? Or are we doing
So
our
I
own
think
website?
just my opinion, I think eventually you may want a separate website as we get closer to, events or, tickets or whatever. For now, the community website on the town website, I think is fine, and we can start building that out by, adding information to it, but I think that's something the committee needs to sort of deliberate. Do you want a separate website? And, there would be a cost to that, to
Mhm.
build that and have someone manage that. Do you want to use, a graphic artist to create a logo, or is it more of a community, event to, solicit designs, that sort of thing?
Yeah, and selling tickets. That's another whole little conundrum.
so
Yeah,
let's,
most of the towns had, for example, Littleton300.org.
Eventbrite,
Some of them were, I have the list of.
That
the-
was my other question, actually, when Jay and I were talking about, the website and everything. Do you want to create, sort of a generic email, that could be in this letter or any other material that comes in? And then I think it can be automatically forwarded to everyone on the committee. I have to check on that part. But what would you want to name sort of that email?
what do you mean? I didn't catch
Southborough
what,
300.
I didn't catch what you were saying.
Like Southborough 300 at southboroughma.com. Do you want a generic email that whenever someone sent, a photo, for example,
I
it goes
see.
out to everybody on the committee simultaneously.
Right.
And if you want something like that, how would you want it labeled? But I think there's a number of things that probably, Jay could help,
Mhm.
outline at one of your future meetings.
Right. Yeah, because I would want to ask if we're selling tickets to things, or could you take donations via online? Like even
Like
the
through a
donations.
Venmo or something.
Well, then, I don't know, how does the town take our donations for our taxes and our water payments? I don't know, that does seem to be
I
go
think that's
to an
another,
outside service, the third
finance
party,
question
right?
for our next month's meeting.
Because if you use anything like Eventbrite, they take a portion of it, and their fees on Eventbrite just went up.
Yeah,
And even if you're a nonprofit, they take money.
yeah.
Even if it's a donation, they take money.
Right, I think that there needs to be a separate avenue for that, because, whatever we take in that comes into the treasurer's office, goes into the general fund or goes into an earmarked fund.
Well, we'll have an earmark fund,
Right.
but. Okay, yeah, that's a question.
So to advance that, we would, at our next meeting, which we'll talk about in a minute, the date of which, we will try to invite, Brian Valentine or his designee, and also,
The town accountant.
yeah, and also someone from IT.
I think so, yeah.
So those will be, if they're willing to come on that particular day and time, then you'll see that on our next agenda. So if we're done with that item, the next item is, research events from other towns and compile a spreadsheet. We've done that, or we're doing that. That's ongoing. That'll be on probably every agenda. Research cost of celebrations from other municipalities. That's, to me, is a rather important homework that we can get more info so that we can have an informed decision about that 30,000, if it's enough, not too much, not enough, and be able to explain it.
I think with Holliston doing theirs this year, they'll be fresh on that subject. We could, contact somebody on that committee.
Sure.
One thing that
And then-
strikes me, sorry, Don.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, one thing, quick thing on the budget appropriation. I saw that Hopkinton, had the 30 pager or whatever it was for everything that's going on as they were getting close to it. But as we mentioned a little bit ago, our email list for the residents at least is probably pretty incomplete. And there may be a real value in putting together at least a postcard, if not a mailer, that goes out in this current fiscal, so that we factor whatever that cost is into this allocation. Patty, you or Jenny may know what that kind of thing would cost for a town of our size. Is that a $5,000 expense to get a postcard out, or is it 20?
No, there's
No.
every mail door direct,
Direct
EDM for post. I think the whole town is 700 and some odd dollars to do everybody,
yeah.
every resident in the town. For a postcard, I'm sure it depends on the size. Yeah, I mean, it's also a printing cost. But every door direct is
I
the
think
way.
it's like 1,700. Is it 1,700 addresses?
I think it's more, it's done in segments and.
Yeah, you have to have the setups for the.
But I think the last one I did was like $705 for the whole town.
Right, that's the mailing cost, the discounted mailing cost, but you have to have the number of pieces, so the number of pieces.
Oh, I have that,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, well, the bottom line is that it's not a big enough number to worry about denting the 30 grand in a way that's significant, so we're good.
no,
So the next item here would be then our meeting in February. And That would be, you're saying the third Wednesday in February? Is that February vacation?
It is.
That's 21st.
Twenty-first? Are there other meetings during that week, Vanessa?
There are, but a number of boards, choose not to meet.
Yeah.
During the school vacation week, so if you wanna flip to a different night, we can do
That might be people with younger children.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we
Or
want
do we
to,
go the 28th?
well,
Wait a minute, we
the
have to do this before,
warrant goes to the
yeah,
selectmen.
we have to do it before the warrant is
So you
signed.
might actually wanna meet, the first or second week.
We had penciled one in for the 7th, I think.
When is school vacation week? Oh, I see, it's the
19th.
20th. We don't want to, could do it on Valentine's Day.
Could do it
Um,
on the 15th.
We had one penciled in on the 7th. On my,
Go ahead, Jim.
Oh,
I said-
sorry, I gotta turn this on.
Start over, Jim.
I said, I think we had one penciled in for February 7th. That's what I had in my calendar.
I have it too.
Let's do that then.
Okay.
And as we saw tonight, no matter how well we plan ahead, things come up and people can't make it. Try for that, February 7th. So I heard a few homework assignments with Patty and Ginny submitting edits to Jim on the letter. Right?
Right, and Don, you also mentioned you had some,
Want to have ready by February 7th.
Don, you also had 3 items I think you were suggesting we add to the list. If you wouldn't mind marking it up, the letter up and adding those. I think I caught 2 during the meeting, but if you could just add those 3, that'd be helpful.
And Ginny and I are going to work on a Google form.
Jim, were you talking about we are considering things like
Yeah, that list.
Yeah, I just added tree plantings, historic photo document displays, educational events in schools, and memorabilia merchandise. There were 4 of them.
Okay,
I'm not sure about the 15, about memorabilia, but those other things people might be interested in. So,
thank you.
okay, anything else?
Are we going to do any research on the costs that some of the other towns?
I think all of us trying to do that. I know I am.
Okay.
I contacted the town in Rhode Island.
Do you want me to pick a town and I'll,
Sure.
all right, I'll work on Holliston.
Yeah, because you said you knew.
Well, I know somebody in Hopkinton that was on that board, but that was 2015.
Yeah.
So I'll do Holliston and Hopkinton. And see if I can get any ideas on budgets in those 2 towns.
Excellent.
Okay.
Was that it for the homework assignments?
So when earlier in one of the board's first meetings, you sort of identified who would research each community. I just want to write to everyone else that wasn't able to come tonight and tell them about this piece. So are we gonna go back, use that main list that people will?
Yeah, we can, but some of those were dead ends.
Yeah.
Mine
That's
was
why,
dead end.
that's why I went
Oh,
and I
okay.
researched other towns that weren't on our initial list.
On that
And that's
first.
why I
get
started
it.
looking in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And it's weird that it seems like in the 1720s, mid-1720s, there was
A real flurry.
no, it's just the opposite. That,
Oh.
there's like a 4 or 5 year gap
I
where
saw that too.
there's and then there's no towns incorporated, and then years prior to that, there was a chunk of them,
Mhm.
and then after that, but in the 17.
You pretty much, most of the towns that are detailed on my list were from the ones from the 1720s.
Yeah, it's not that many compared to the
Right.
other timeframes. But yeah. But I mean, like, for example, that Northfield one, it's the 350th. So they were incorporated in 1683, I think, 1683, something like that. So, and Hudson was in 1866, so I think that's what it was. So it was 2016. So might expand out to see what other towns did for, not just the 200th, but maybe 300, but maybe somewhere in the middle there, 50th, 250, 350. Anything else, Jim? You good? Jenny,
Good.
Patty,
All set.
and Vanessa,
Good.
we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, Patty made the motion, Jim seconded it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, aye.
Martin's eye.
Fury, aye.
Glaschke, aye.
Thanks so much. See you on the 7th, not sooner.